Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button for more thought-provoking content each week. Now today we're venturing into the realm of plasma, ley lines, earth lights and the quantum nature of consciousness. So I'm here as well to ponder questions and possibilities, and I don't always have the definitive answers, but I'd like to invite you on this journey of exploration with me. So let's start with plasma. Now we all have heard of plasma, but what actually is it? Now, it's often referred to as the fourth state of matter, following solid, liquid, gas, plasma. Now, plasma is an ionized gas, and it consists of free electrons and free electrons and ions. And it's found in many places. We find it in stars, we find it in lightning and in neon lights. Plasma emits, absorbs and scatters light, which is a really interesting phenomenon that we're going to get to when we're going to talk about sacred sites. So this is why we do see phenomena like the Northern Lights, why neon signs are neon, and even some of the stars in the sky. This is this plasma light. So now let's jump from plasma to ley lines. So ley lines are these alignments in the landscape that connect various significant sites. So a ley is really, Alfred Watkins talked about, he saw this lines in the landscape of sacred site aligned to sacred site. So a ley is really the sacred, the line of sight. And this network of lines covers the surface of the earth. So, but when we douse them, and the energy lines connect these sites of significance. So ancient monuments, megaliths, really old parish churches, sacred hills, they form on this alignment. And dowsers and certain other spiritual traditions, well, we believe that these lines carry a form of energy. So they can be electromagnetic energy, they can be sound energy. And a gentleman called Rory Duff has done some brilliant work on researching the types of energy down these lines. And the points where these lines of energy intersect, they're often marked by these sacred sites. And we douse these areas of having sort of high concentrations of energy. And in fact, if you measure the sort of things like the piezoelectricity and the paramagnetism in the rock and the soil, it has heightened levels of energy compared to what we would call non-sacred sites. So it's a highly charged environment. So having had experiences of astrally traveling like through ley lines when they form like a tunnel, like a tube, and I've been astrally projected down them, I wonder if we talk about earth lights and plasma being emitted at sacred sites, which we're going to come on to, but I wonder if the energy lines themselves could be a form of plasma. So if we consider that energy flowing through the lines is a form of electromagnetic energy, it's theoretically possible to draw parallels with the properties of plasma. Obviously, this is purely speculative, open to debate. So I'd love to hear people's thoughts on this. So when we have phenomena called things like earth lights and ghost lights, and these are often reported at sacred sites like orbs of light. And we wonder if these could be, are these a plasma phenomena? That's one of the thoughts going around at the moment, that they're like a plasma form of light. So we know ball lightning, for instance, that's well documented, though it's not fully understood. I have seen an incredible ball lightning once, and it is akin to some of the plasma lights you see. It's not the same, but it's a similar type. But that's an example of plasma that we can observe is ball lightning. But in certain conditions, like for instance, like where we get geological stress, that can be at fault lines, sort of earthquake sites. And bearing in mind that most sacred sites are often located near geological fault lines. These sort of geological stress can cause electrical phenomena that result in visible light emissions. These phenomena is known as earthquake lights. So we see them at earthquakes, but sacred sites emit them. We have earth lights emitted at sacred sites where the fault line isn't necessarily active, but it's still emitting possibly these lights. So some researchers suggest that these lights are a form of plasma. I would agree with that personally. And we won't talk about plasma being conscious in this video, but that'll be something we'll talk about later. So I want to talk about, could similar processes be at work, but in a different form in areas with high geomagnetic energy, resulting in sort of earth lights, but also energy lay. So to look at how energy lay could be a form of plasma, I want to actually jump again to dive into the nature of consciousness. So quantum consciousness suggests that our brain utilizes quantum phenomena to connect to a universal field of energy. So science, we call it the universal energy field. We might call it the Akashic records, whatever it is. But we recognize in scientific and spiritual terms that there is something other than our 3D world. God, whatever, but there is some intelligence beyond what we physically experience. And it's this quantum consciousness, this universal field that we go into when we have a kind of spiritual or mystical experience. We're able to go outside of our own head and experience something different, to connect to something far more than ourselves. So the theory of quantum consciousness is partly that, or rather the theory of quantum consciousness is actually supported by the geometric nature of the neurons in our brain, which allows for the efficient transmission of light within our brains. So we have the neurons, and there's like a water conduit to it, but they also we have light waves being transmitted within the neurons because of their geometric nature. So it's like a prism, if you like, reflecting light around the neurons. So let's draw parallels between the human brain and the earth. It could be proposed that the Earth functions as a massive brain because the universe is conscious. We could scale that up and say the universe is a massive brain, and the Earth is part of that, but a brain in its own right. And we are a part of the Earth. We have a brain in our own right. And we are not only part of the Earth, we are part of the universe. So we are part of this universe, our own individual tiny little selves, compared to the massiveness of the universe. We ourselves are an expression of the universe trying to learn and discover more about itself. So the universe is holographic. So you've got the holographic universe. Each planet, is like a hologram of the universe, and we ourselves are a hologram of the universe. So we have these neural networks that, because of their geometric nature, transmit light around, and that light enables us, it's like a form of plasma, enables us to connect to this quantum consciousness because we have it within us, same as we have gold within us, stardust within us. So the earth has similar structures. It can be proposed, so ley lines, if you like, and the alignments with sacred sites and landmarks can be likened to the neurons in our brain. And this is why, like, the neuron has a sacred geometry structure. But when we get to sacred sites within the earth, they have a sacred geometric energy structure. Things like dodecahedrons, octahedrons, cuboids. There's lots of different shapes of energy that we can dowse for, and I can see at sacred sites. And they allow light to travel across the earth. There's a form of light, I would argue, that is in energy lines, not just ball of plasma lights that come out, from sacred sites sometimes. I would argue, because when you see these lines of energy, they're like these glowing lines of light across the landscape. They often appear to me cuboid, so there's these big channels of light, but it's not like daylight because it's plasma light. It's a different form of light. It's almost like a light we don't normally get to see. And it travels across the landscape, similarly to how light travels within our neurons. So, as I say, that brings us back to the concept of the universe being holographic, which of course there's much research done on this. So the holographic principle suggests that the entire universe can be seen almost like a two-dimensional information structure, sort of almost like painted on the cosmological horizon rather, so that the three dimensions we observe are an effective description only at macroscopic scales. Can't find a better way of describing that. So it's it's basically the universe is holographic. Like I said, if we look at our body is holographic. We have holographic images of the universe written into our dimensions of our body. So if we consider this principle that the universe is holographic, we have the ability in our body to, water acts as a conduit, it acts as an information carrier. We have light being transmitted through our body, through our neural network, not just our brain. I would argue that light travels around our body, which may be the basis for the meridians in Chinese medicine. So if we consider that in principle, theoretically, it's possible that the same phenomena we observe in our brains and our bodies and the earth, we can observe that. We could scale that up to observe it in the earth, as in ley lines and sacred sites. The sacred sites would be the acupuncture points, so as we have them on ours, and the energy lines would be the equivalent of the meridians we have in our body. This could mean that the universe really is interconnected through a vast network then of cosmic neurons. So when we get these interplanetary lines, that's the next scale up. I'm looking at lines that go from the Earth to the Moon to the Sun. There are huge energy lines that go out there into the universe. So I want you to look at that light then in a slightly different way. So let's say you have this tube, this plasma tube of light. And I talked about the neurons having a geometrical structure with them, which allows the light to be transmitted like a prism, bouncing the light around the neurons. Well, when we have this psychic experiences, sooner or later, you will have an experience of geometry, where we go down these passages and tubes and lines and arousal like the inside of donuts and dropping and moving these huge crests and waves through these geometric shapes. So we ride these big crests and then drop down. It's all geometry, whole geometrical structures. And the feeling inside your awareness is totally different than your day-to-day experience. So let's look at those geometric pathways that we travel down when we're having trance experiences. Could these be plasma channels that lie beyond the physical expression of matter? Because plasma is what we call the fourth state of matter, but it's also beyond that. So could it be the physical expression, the state of plasma before we're able to tangibly get a hold of it, almost like in the physical realms? I think this is a fascinating hypothesis, personally. So if we consider that the energy flowing down these pathways as a form of sort of like electromagnetic activity, but also plasma, it's theoretically possible, like I said, to draw parallels with plasma. Is it electromagnetic or is it plasma? I think possibly it blends from one into the other, or the two are simultaneously true. So it could explain then why so many spiritual writings and art convey all these geometric patterns, because we know, geometry is what we call geometry is at the heart of the creative processes. It's how cells divide. It's how any life comes into being is through geometry. And if we look at plasma being conscious because it can change shape, it responds to us. I've had experiences with plasma balls of light coming out of the ground and me thinking things and then taking the form of those thoughts. So it responds to us. Obviously, can't speak language, but it responds and morphs to our thought form. So it can read our mind. It can understand what we're thinking. But that would be because our mind is always connected to this universal field of energy where really plasma resides. So it can pick up on our individual thoughts. So this is why, so many of our spiritual writings and art, everything from Celtic knotwork to Islamic art has all these, conveys these fantastic geometric patterns. And, we look at that because we recognize that that's what we experience when we have an out-of-body experience, when we leave our body behind, when we have an altered state of consciousness. So our consciousness may enter the quantum field of information. We can't obviously take our body there because the quantum information field has no material structure. It's beyond the veil. We have this physical world, like I said, that we can see, but that's really, it gives the appearance of sort of like a three-dimensional reality, but actually when we look beyond that, it's almost like on this two-dimensional plane. It's the best way I can describe it. I can't describe it any better really at the moment. So I mean, these ideas of mine, they're, you know, they're speculative, they're theory. I look at other people who were talking about plasma and consciousness, but I just wanted to draw that parallel between the nature of quantum consciousness in us and the fact that we have these geometric shape of neurons, which allows this transmission of light. And we have these conscious of water. And this is what we get in Earth. We get the same phenomena in the Earth. And so the nature of ley lines and their connection to geomagnetic activity, this is like the spark in our body, and the phenomenon of earth nights, which is like the light in our brain, and the quantum nature of consciousness, and the potential plasma channels that we experience during trance experiences. I think, you know, it's always worth looking more deeply at these things. This is the experience of, you know, of enlightenment, these epiphany moments, these, I mean, if you've ever had an out-of-body experience, if you've ever had one of these deep trance experiences where you go down these geometric tunnels and crest, these huge crests and waves. And when we know, like in space-time out there, and it does, you know, the universe has these huge crests and waves in its sort of energetic makeup. And we can talk about this in the, you know, 5 Brief Lessons in Physics books talk about this, which is a really easy read. So it's almost like we're experiencing those crests of these waves when we go down these tunnels. And this is a common shamanic experience from throughout the world, that we are sort of heading out past the Milky Way. We're heading to a particular spot in the Milky Way. And I think we attune to a certain big energy line that is going that way. And we want to, whether that's where the humans originally came from or whatever, I'm not prepared to you know, well, I can speculate on that some blue in the face, but, you know, I don't have that answer. But I think it's really interesting that the more we look into quantum consciousness within the human experience, the more we can see parallels with what we douse as ancient sacred sites and the, you know, and our experiences with plasma and earth lights and sacred geometry at sacred sites. So it's really, as I say, it just drums into the fact that the nature of the universe is holographic. So if any doubters are out there, you know, don't forget when you go to sacred sites, you know, do not just douse for energy lines. There are lots of quite complex geometric shapes you will find at these sites. Even if they're quite small, the site is quite small, they will still be there on a level. Like I said, the universe is holographic. So at big sites, you'll get big energy phenomena. At smaller sites, you'll get the same phenomena, just sort of on a smaller scale, slightly less powerful. Like we can read our heartbeat by putting a thing on our chest. You can read your heartbeat in your little finger. It's the same beat. It's just smaller. You won't get that pulse. And it's much like that with sacred sites. You get the massive sacred sites that have got this strong beat of the earth, and big sacred geometry structures in energy. And on smaller sites, you just get a slightly weaker beat that you'll feel it, and smaller geometrical structures. But they're all worth exploring because they'll all teach us so much, and they all give us a different type of experience. And I think, you know, there's so much we have yet to explore about all this. I only wish I had the answers because I'd be like, you know, divine being. But bear that in mind when you go dowsing and go to these sites. So that's it really for today. I've asked some big questions, hopefully sparked your curiosity. And if you've enjoyed this exploration, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. And also don't forget that I have the Earth Energy Masterclass coming up soon. Details will be in the description of the video. So until next time, keep asking questions and stay curious.